got your back.
You already know.
Oh, that.
You know your sister. Ah, thank you.
Good evening. It is now 5:31, and we're going to call our meeting to order. The first phase of this afternoon's meeting, or this evening's meeting, is going to be a public hearing. This is a public hearing on approving the issuance of the Arizona Industrial Development Authority Charter School revenue bonds. Uh, it's by law stated that we should have this public hearing so that citizens can ask questions, give comments in reference to this initiative as they so choose. This was run in the newspaper, and I think it was in the newspaper in July. And I hope those of you who are here saw that. It was published July 9th, 2023, in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette and also in the Pine Bluff Commercial. This hearing is to permit the public to comment on the proposed issuance and the use of the sales proceeds and bonds. So at this time, the hearing is called to order. But just before we move forward with the hearing itself, we'll have a roll call of our council members.
Councilmember Mays.
Present. Here.
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Here.
Councilmember Brown Jr.
Here.
Councilmember Lockett.
Here.
Councilmember Brown Sr. Councilmember Shaner.
Here.
Councilmember Frazier.
Here.
Councilmember Brunson. Here.
Okay, everybody's here
No.
except Brown Senior. Is Brown Senior coming or is he on Zoom?
I think
Not heard from him.
he'll probably be here.
Running late, okay. So we'll go on and get started and maybe he'll come in. Okay. As I was saying, this hearing is given on this day, July 17th, and it is an in-person public hearing, and it is required by Section 147F of the Federal Revenue Code of 1986. And it's held on behalf of the City of Pine Bluff and Friendship Aspire School. And it's with respect to the proposed issuance by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority, a nonprofit corporation designated as a political subdivision of the state of Arizona, of its charter school revenue bonds. And these bonds are defined as in Section 145 to be issued for land acquisition, remodeling, building, etc., not to exceed $22 million with respect to the project. So this hearing, as I said, is called to order. We're going to ask Attorney Edwards to come up, if she will, and make a presentation to the public on exactly what this initiative involves.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for having us here. As she said, my name is Ashley Edwards. I'm with the Mitchell Williams Law Firm in Little Rock, Arkansas. And we're representing Friendship Aspire.
If you can you turn that mic? There you go.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We're representing Friendship Aspire Academy in this transaction. They have asked the Equitable Financial Fund for a loan of $22 million for refinancing the purchase of Hazel Street campus and the campus at 700 South Main Street. As the mayor said, these bonds will be issued by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority. We're here tonight just because we have to follow federal tax laws for these tax-exempt bonds, which requires the host city, which is the city where the property is located, where the funds will be spent, to hold a public hearing and to approve the issuance of the bonds. There's no fiscal impact for the city. We are just checking a procedural box to meet the federal tax laws. And I'll open it up to any questions. And I have
This is for refinancing of the Hazel Street and the
campus
Main Street campus.
and the Main Street campus, yes.
Nothing to do with the 73rd Street project.
No, ma'am.
Okay, that was one of the concerns. Any council members have questions or concerns? The city is not held liable in any way.
Correct?
Okay. All right. Is there anyone from the public with questions or comments? If so, you may stand and come to the mic at this time. Any questions? Any comments?
I have just one. Now,
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Lockett.
yeah, what's the worst case scenario? What if
For the
Friendship?
city council?
No, just for the whole project. If say Friendship expires, loses students, and is unable to pay the note on the bonds, what would be the recourse to the bondholders to the properties that are held here in Pine Bluff that are now owned by the just
Right. As security for the financing of this project, they're gonna grant a mortgage on each of those properties. So those properties could be sold to, raise the funds to pay the bondholders.
Any other
That answers.
questions?
So who's reliable for the payment if they,
Friendship Aspire, they're the only ones liable. They're the borrower of those proceeds. And so they would look directly to that entity to make payments on the bonds.
Thank you. If there are no other questions. If there are no other questions or concerns, that will bring our public hearing to a close. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to our public comment section that always comes before our regular agenda. This evening, we have 8 speakers to speak to agenda items, and then we have 2 speakers to speak on non-agenda items, which will follow the meeting. Our first speaker is Mr. Darren Hale. Mr. Hale is speaking to agenda item number 8, and he's speaking for.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
So, my name's Darren Hill. I'm a local real estate investor. I've got a couple of rental properties here in Pine Bluff. And born and raised, was gone about 25 years, spent... How about now? Is that better? Good. So, spent about 25 years away. A lot of that time was spent in the state of Texas. Had an opportunity to see a lot of different things, working a corporate position with a Fortune 500 company. And everywhere I went, I would always think about what could Pine Bluff do differently. I've got some very fond memories, having grown up here in the 1970s and early 80s, of how well Pine Bluff was. Really good memories, you know, from driving downtown, riding around Main Street, Pine Street, trying to find a parking spot because business was so good, and there were a lot of people downtown, to seeing Michael Jordan play with the University of North Carolina, playing Arkansas here in the Convention Center in 1983. So I think it's imperative that we work together to try to improve this city. We've got to come together. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. I've heard a lot of different things, and I have the ability to speak freely. I'm not tied to anybody. I'm not speaking for anyone. I'm speaking for myself. And I can tell you that this city has a lot of opportunity, a lot of opportunity. I'm reminded of attending a fundraiser in the great state of Texas, and the former governor, Rick Perry, was speaking, and he was talking about the state of Texas, specifically Dallas, trying to recruit Boeing to move their corporate headquarters to Dallas. And they did everything that they thought that they could do to recruit Boeing to Dallas. Now, everyone would think, as big as Dallas is that they would have everything that was needed to be able to recruit a corporate headquarters. With that, there were going to be about 5,000 to 6,000 jobs, good-paying jobs, that were going to come to Dallas. Unfortunately, Boeing decided to place their corporate headquarters in Chicago. Several years later, he stated that he had an opportunity to speak with the former CEO of Boeing and ask what was it that caused Dallas not to get the corporate headquarters.
Mr. Hale, I hate to interrupt. I think I failed to tell you we have 8 speakers, so we're
Okay.
limiting to 2 minutes per speaker. Your time is up, so just wrap it up real
Okay.
quick.
Bottom
please.
line, Dallas did not have a vibrant arts and museum district. And that was the reason that they were located their facility in Chicago. We've got to improve our city. This initiative that we have before us is very important to help drive that change. And we need housing, we need police, we need security, and we need better schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Okay. Our next speaker, and we do have 2 minutes per each speaker. Mr. Foster, Jack Foster, speaking to agenda item number 8, also against.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I know it's may be out of protocol, but I would like to request to get a few more minutes. I think it's allowed by ordinance. If the council vote as such, to allow me an additional 2 minutes. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, you can allow me to speak as long as I want to, like you do Ryan Watley. You have choices.
I didn't understand it. Help me. I didn't understand that. I want to know what you just said.
No, what it is that I need more than 2 minutes to say what I got to say. According to Sydney ordinance, you can make a request to the council to request more time. And I'm making that request now. Either the council can allow me to do that, or you can allow me to speak unlimitedly the way that Ryan Watley does every time he steps to this podium.
We'll make sure that you won't talk over time this time.
Thank you.
Well, can we go ahead and hear what he's saying, and if the time runs out, then we can make that decision at that point?
No, it has to be done prior to that.
Okay.
We just want to let, according to your comparison, we just want to let Ryan speak.
Move to grant an additional 2 minutes to Mr. Foster's public comment.
Well, I second it. That's what you want to do.
All in favor of that 2-minute addition?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, 2 minutes granted.
Thank you very much.
Start now. Yeah, go ahead, start.
We'll start now. We'll let him start now.
I'm here to speak against this 5/8 cent tax. The people of this community about 60 days ago said no to that tax. I'm trying to figure out what has changed in 60 days that would allow 2 of the members of this body to bring this tax back. There was no public hearings on it, which makes me believe that those 2 people are taking their order from somebody else other than the people of this community. The people should be the ones who make the decision. It makes me think that somebody is handling these 2 folks, telling them what to do without input from the community. Where are the public hearings? Why wasn't there public hearings here held prior to implementing, bringing this tax back? It don't make sense to me. The people have said no. What part of NO you don't understand? What part of NO you don't understand? Now let me say something. I'm looking at the ordinance here, and it's saying that this tax is there's a temporary need for source of revenues to fund general purpose of the city government. What purposes? What? What? You want to do a tax, and you're not saying what you're going to spend it on. You're just floating it out there. You're just floating it. You're talking about, now all of a sudden, Delta Rhythm and Bayou has become an issue in putting this tax on. A few weeks ago, you was over here fighting Mr. Cunningham and his proposal. That's politics. I understand what you're doing. The people in this community, we're not stupid. We are not stupid, Mr. Brown and Mr. Holcomb. We are not stupid. We know exactly what you're doing. Now let me say something. This cap I got on say I served in Vietnam in a combat zone. I went 8,000 miles away from home to fight so-called communism. If you think I'm going to live in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and allow apartheid to happen in this city, you're both crazy. There is no way. And let me tell you what apartheid is in case you don't know. Mandela spent 27 years in prison for fighting apartheid in South Africa. It's where the minority rules the majority. And that's exactly what's happening here. The minority is ruling the majority. And we got people in this body that don't see that, or they don't want to see that. They don't want to see it. And I'm saying, where do we draw the line? How long will we continue to sit here and allow a nonprofit group to run this city? That's what's happening. Or are we doing this tax to preserve Mr. Watley's big salary? What's the reasoning? They've already botched millions of dollars. And I guarantee you, if Mr. Watley was in the corporate world and misappropriated that kind of money, he wouldn't have a job. I spent over 25 years in the corporate world. I know. If you don't function, you go. It's just that simple. And I think it's now time that this body step to the plate and say, look, and tell these people that's handling Go Forward, we're not crazy. They think we're stupid. They actually think that we are stupid and that we're going to go out and support a tax again. Ain't no way. There's no way. And when I talk about apartheid, that's what it is. The black face is Ryan Watley. But who's pulling the strings behind the scenes? We all know, but we sit here like lumps on a log and pretend like we don't know what's going on. We all know what's going on. And that's why I said previously that there's some members of this body I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you go home, because you don't represent the people. You represent individuals. And that's not what government is all about. Period. Bottom line. Bottom line. And I'm saying today to all of you that's sitting on this body that when this thing comes to a vote, don't vote for it. As a matter of fact, the sponsors should pull it and save faith. You should save face by pulling it. Let me say something to you, Mr. Brown and Mr. Holcomb. Mr. Brown, I've been knowing your father for years. I've watched him fight at the county and the city level for people that look just like me. Mr. Holcomb, I served with your mother on this
Mr.
body.
Foster, excuse me. Your 4 minutes ended.
It did?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me say this and I'll close.
It ended just a bit ago. Just
Okay.
wrap up. Thank you.
I served with your mother, Mr. Holcomb. And I'm going to tell you what you and Mr. Brown both are doing right now. You're destroying the legacy of your parents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Michael Banks. Mr. Banks is speaking to agenda item number 8, and he's speaking for. Mr. Michael Banks. Last time, Mr. Michael Banks, I'm assuming is not here. So our next speaker will be Mr. Demetrius Melvin, also speaking to agenda item number 8, against.
Hello?
2 minutes.
Okay, I'm Demetrius Melvin, so community organization. It's when they are paying on medications, higher gas prices. When we look across the nation, you see that rent's going up. You see that everything is going through the roof, and we feel, though, that this is just not a good time for this tax to try to be put back on any proposals, and that was unanimously voted by our members at Arkansas Community Organization. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Will Jenkins, agenda number 8, for. Two minutes, sir.
Only 2 minutes?
Only 2 minutes, sir.
Can I do what Jack Foster did? No, I'm kidding.
You have the right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Will Jenkins. I'm an entrepreneur, general contractor, and a developer. I moved here 7 years ago. My wife went nuts purchasing property. We have a vision, and Go Forward Pine Bluff shares that vision. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm living in the 1960s. All this color stuff, black, white. It needs to stop. We need to move forward, and we need Go Forward. They've helped with teachers being certified. They've helped with down payments for the police and firemen. I mean, I don't know what's wrong. I mean, this city has been on a continuous decline for the past 40 years. Wake up, people. Aren't you a part of the woke culture? Wake up. You know, when I moved here, there was no talk of a casino, nor go for it Pine Bluff. My wife and I had a vision, and we still have that vision, and we share the same vision that Go Forward shares for this city. Look at the things that they've done. You know, everybody wants to forget when they were passed in 2017, we went through a pandemic 3 years, right? Okay? Look what they've done so far, and look what they're going to continue to do when we all vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Our next speaker, speaking also to agenda item number 8, speaking against, is Jahid Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad. I'm assuming he's not here, so we're going to move to our next speaker, Mr. John Finley. Agenda item number 8, speaking against.
Hi, I'm John Fenley.
Mr.
And-
Finley,
Yeah?
we don't allow signs in our
You
in
don't
our
allow
meetings.
signs.
I'm sorry,
You don't allow signs?
we don't allow signs in our meetings.
Can you point me to that ordinance then? What is the ordinance that prohibits me from having this sign, expressing my First Amendment right in a
We-
public place?
We've
He's
just,
right, Mayor.
I'm sorry, we've just never allowed signs of
He's
any
right,
type.
Mayor. We allow people to bring their demonstrations in here to show us. So I think he's right here.
Okay. All right, move forward.
What you're doing here isn't working. You're monopolizing or trying to monopolize everything that could happen here, but Go Forward isn't competent in what they're doing. They're not actually executing on anything in a timely manner, in a cost-effective manner. Have you heard of helicopter money? When people just drop money from a helicopter? Have you heard of this? What Go Forward is doing is the opposite. They've got a big vacuum. They're sucking up all the money all over town. $15 a month from everybody. And what are they doing with it? Nothing good. What you're doing is not working. You need to support independent efforts to create a good place. Every time you try to monopolize something, prevent somebody that's coming in and to do something from doing what they want to do, you make it worse here. What you're doing is not working. Are you just going to ignore democracy at this point? You're just going to ignore democracy. We voted on this already. Should we just throw democracy out the window at this point? What else do we throw out the window? Should we just throw all the laws out the window? What do we throw out the window if we're not going to keep democracy? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Finley. And our last speaker is Mr. Ivan Whitfield, speaking to agenda item number 8, against.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to be like Jack Foster and have 4 minutes, and I want to be like Mr. Finley with a sign.
I make the motion
joking.
that we give you.
I'm just joking, y'all. Just joking. Okay, I'm Ivan Whitfield. I'm president of the NAACP local branch. I want to come this evening to say to the mayor and this council that the people have spoken at a special election about the tax, and for Alderman Brown Jr. and Alderman Holcomb to get together and call a special meeting and to have another, to reverse what the people have said, it sends a bad indictment on people that we have elected to represent us. This initiative could have been put on a ballot in March and would not have cost the city one extra dime. This initiative could have been put back on the ballot by collecting signatures. They could have, if Go Forward was so strong and you all wanted to help them, you could have collected signatures. This city paid $40,000 a few months ago for the tax initiative that failed. My understanding was Go Forward was going to pay that $40,000, but they didn't. Mayor and council, I want to say to you all tonight that you all have called a press conference for raised taxes on our citizens. Brown and Holcomb call a special committee meeting to put this tax initiative back on the ballot. But yet, nobody calls a special meeting to discuss our young people dying at a great number on the streets of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. We rather focus on taxes to raise it up. I'm hurt that Brown Jr. is chair of public safety, the mayor, and the entire council that's going to vote for this. Maybe you're not concerned yet because it hadn't hit on your street. Maybe you're not concerned yet because it hadn't hit at your house. But let me say to you, it's going to be a dog day in Pine Bluff when when a young person dies that has that last name that make us bang. So far, we can't hardly call the name of those individuals that's dead, those children. But when it happened to one of ours, then we would take action. Then we would call a meeting. I say to you, to put this tax back on the ballot is worse than Jack Foster said apartheid. This is just saying, no matter what you said, no matter how you voted wrong, come on back. Let me say this and I'll take my seat. What you all are doing to the city of Pine Bluff is one step better than what Trump did on January the 6th. He tried to take over America just because he thought he could. Now the bank's saying to you all, we're going to take over Pine Bluff, and y'all believe that they can. They ran Pine Bluff down, put it back in the hands of the citizen. Vote no when it comes to putting this tax on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. That ends our public speakers speaking to agenda items. This evening, our invocation as we move forward to open up our meeting is coming from Reverend Norman Gilliam. Is Reverend Gilliam here? Reverend Gilliam is the pastor of Toombs Chapel AM and E Church. Thank you for standing and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we stand in your presence right now. We come asking, oh Lord, for guidance. We come asking for understanding. We come asking for peace. Now, Lord, as we as a body, a group of people, of citizens of this city of Pine Bluff, we ask, oh God, that you let us see your will. Let the work that you want done be done. I ask the special blessing, oh God, on the council, the mayor, and all the citizens of Pine Bluff, young and old, that they be strong and stand for what you want. Now, God, we know a house divided cannot stand. And we ask, oh God, in your name, to bring us together where we'll be one people, one faith, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We pray this in the mighty and the matchless name of your darling Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen.
You may be seated. We normally do roll call at this time. We've already done that roll call, so each of you should have a copy of the last
Second.
minutes in front of you. It's been moved and properly second that the minutes be approved as presented. All in favor? Are there any who oppose? If not, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And next, we'll go to our committee reports. And our first report will come from Ways and Means. Budget adjustments will be addressed. Councilmember Mays, I'm sorry. Ways and Means, Councilmember Mays with Councilmember Brown Jr. substituting.
Thank you, Mayor. Ways and Means met actually twice since the last council meeting. We met on July 12th. Agenda items 7 through 10 were all discussed and moved on to the full council with a due pass from the committee. Ways and Means also met just before this council meeting, and tonight we have 3 budget adjustments for this evening. First budget adjustment is coming. It's coming from the sales tax fund. This is the total budget adjustment is $2,035,000. This is going towards the downtown district project expense, and this will be transferring the money to urban renewal for project funding. I'll move that we approve this budget adjustment.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve a budget adjustment coming from the 2017 sales tax to fund downtown projects and citywide projects in the amount of $2,035,000. The floor is open for questions, discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Councilmember
I know we met last month on the Delta Rhythm and Values budget adjustment, and I'm thankful that we got that passed. And I don't have a problem with supporting this as long as we show the same kind of diligence in moving funds and moving the project forward. I just feel some kind of way that, Madam Mayor, when the council wants to do something, it gets bogged down. But never, when I first inquired about doing what we had promised to do, I was told that the funding wasn't there because the tax didn't pass. But when it's time to do these projects, there's never a doubt that the money is there. So I don't have a problem supporting this project and this budget transfer, but I just want to urge you, Mayor, that as we go forward, that we see both of these projects, the urban renewal projects and the Delta Rhythm and Value projects, in the same kind of light, and that we put the same kind of effort and diligence in doing what we need to do to move them forward.
And I think we need to understand that during that time, the contracts for these projects had already been signed, and they were part of that budget. I understand what you're saying, and I think we will do the same in holding them just as accountable. And this is just a portion of the money that they might need for the rest of this year. Their projects still are not completed, and there's money still in the 2017 sales tax fund that's not being moved to urban renewal and will not be moved until they get to that level of progress with the projects. So we agree wholeheartedly with you. Any other comments, questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Councilmember Mays?
Thank you, Mayor Washington, the council, and the public. I'm voting against this. I mean, urban renewal has a lot of money stacked up, and I don't know how they get over y'all like this. Look, have y'all rode on the streets lately? Now, I may be the only one riding down the street. Really? Come on now. This is a lot of paper, and they sitting back laughing at us when they get this money. When they get this money, our young people can't go outside and play. They don't have any things outside to play from the city. And we sit up here and vote on stuff because urban renewal, Simmons Bank, and all of them got their hands in y'all pockets up here.
Councilmember Mays.
Mayor, I'm speaking. You gave me a chance to talk, and I'm speaking. I can talk. They don't own me. Nobody.
And nobody owns me either.
Well, those who have ears, let them hear. If the shoe fits, wear it. Even if you're just trying it on. Now listen, this bunch is out of control, trying to control this city. This is not slavery. And they're not going to control me.
Okay.
I work for the people every time I'm up here. And I will forever work for the citizens of Pine Bluff. Y'all know this wrong. Look at the city when you go home. Look at the city.
Councilmember Mays.
Man, I got the floor now. I got the floor. Respect that.
We're going to respect that.
I am
But
the
you only
senior
have so
alderman.
many
I'm the
minutes.
senior alderman, and I can talk. But listen, y'all got to grow up and stop being grown kids. And not let them banks control y'all. All them boys at them banks, I do is to look at y'all. Y'all shut up.
This is money that's being moved to support projects
Well,
that
I'm
are
not
underway.
supporting it, Mayor. I don't
So
want
if
nothing,
you're
nothing to do with it.
If you're not supporting it,
I'm
let's
just
move
saying, well,
forward with our vote.
Well, I represent the people every day. Nobody's going to call me and tell me what to do. And that's what they do up here.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
If there are no more comments, let's vote. All in favor of this budget adjustment, let it be known by saying aye.
No. Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays,
No.
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.,
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr.,
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett,
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Senior,
No.
Councilmember Shainer, Councilmember Frazier,
Aye.
Councilmember Brunson.
Okay. That's 6-2. Budget adjustment approved.
Next budget adjustment is coming out of animal control. This is for a spay and neuter initiative. The total budget adjustment is $5,700. This is coming from within their own budget, coming from contributions, and it's going toward that initiative. I move that we approve this budget adjustment.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that we approve a budget adjustment coming from the Animal Control Department in the amount of $57,000 to be used for the spay, $5,700 to be used for the spay and neuter initiative in animal control. The floor is open for discussion. I will say that if you'll notice, this money is coming from contributions, and they've received just a little more than the $5,700 in contributions so far, and they're using those contributions for the spay and neuter initiative. That's so much needed as we move forward. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. All in favor of this budget adjustment, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget adjustment approved.
Third and final budget adjustment is coming from the street department. Total budget adjustment is $350,000. This is coming from overlay transfer from the city and is going towards overlay projects. I move that we approve this budget adjustment.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that a budget adjustment in the amount of $350,000 in the street fund be moved to the street fund. And this is coming from our overflow money, what's that money?
Carryover?
No, not the carryover.
Oh. Was
What
that
is
the
it?
allocation that we did from the 1.5?
Yes, this is part of the 1.5.
Okay.
And they're just taking this much to go toward projects that are underway at this time. And the rest of it will stay in the fund until time to be used. The floor is open for discussion. Questions?
Yes, Mayor, I have a question. I'm gonna support this, but I want the people, the taxpayers that watch this. You spend $350,000 on the streets. When you ride home, tell me, do you see that kind of money? I mean, we spend a lot of money, and the citizens have to see a lot more than what they're getting. You go anywhere in the state, people are spending money. I mean, really?
Street upgrades are underway, and I'm sure you've seen some of those overlays that have taken place, and they have other overlays that are planned. And as they continue to move forward with overlays, showing progress, then we'll continue to move money into that street fund to pay for the overlays. And that's what we're doing here. So I'm sure you've seen Cherry Street, 42nd Street, Hazel, and then they have patches that they've done in rough areas throughout town, and they're still working on those.
But actually, what they should have done is went on and finished over there on Cherry, all back over there. They shouldn't have done just Cherry and forgot everything else. And
And they're still working on that.
But they should work night and day, to be honest with you. But go ahead.
Thank you, council member. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of this budget adjustment, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Budget adjustment approved.
Mayor, that concludes Ways and Means for this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown. Next, we'll move to our next committee report coming from Councilmember Mays. Are you ready to do your report, sir? Ordinances and resolutions?
No, ma'am.
You're not doing your report?
You got it.
Let's not make anything out of that.
We
We've been
have
doing this all year.
substituting Councilmember
really.
Holcomb.
Okay,
Been doing this all year.
okay. Ordinance and resolution. We have 10 ordinance. Number 1 will be up for the second reading. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 will be up for the first reading. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 are all resolutions. They will be completed tonight. All of you should have a resolution that will be added to the agenda, a resolution to create a position for economic community development specialist within the economic and community development department. That would be agenda item number 16. We will have to add that to the agenda by vote. I move we add this to the agenda.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we add a resolution number 16 to our agenda tonight. Roll call, please.
Is it possible that we can make a comment about 16?
16.
Are you want to talk about it before
When we get
vote?
to the, once it's added to the agenda, then during the discussion time.
Very
Re-
good.
Yes. Yes, sir. Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember May.
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Jr.
Aye.
Councilmember Lockett.
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Senior.
Aye.
Councilmember Shainer.
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier.
Aye.
Councilmember Brunson. Aye.
Okay. Agenda item 16 added to the agenda.
That concludes ordinance and resolutions.
Thank you, Councilmember Holcomb. Economic and Community Development, Councilmember Brown Senior.
Thank you, Mayor. At this point, resolution number 16 is a community development, economic and community development project, but I see where Lord Holcomb Jr. is the sponsor. We did discuss this position, but, you know, I see a lot of things that should go to economic and community development, but it ends up in somewhere else, development and planning. It ends up everywhere else but in community development. But I'm not the one that want my name on a sponsorship. I'm not that. I believe in whatever's good for Pine Bluff, that's good for me. So it doesn't matter to me who sponsored it, but I do make notations of things that I see. And so I want this public to know that. So at this point, as far as community development, this is my community development. That went through other committees before it got to me. But I'm not gonna ask you to vote for me to have more than 2 minutes, and I'm gonna talk until I finish. Because there's no other time during the city council meeting where an alderman can talk about the things that he feel about this city. So this is what I'm going to say right now. 2 months ago, and Jack Foster and I have not talked. It has seemed as though he got inside my brain today, because I didn't think about this until today. But 2 months ago, in a week, the citizens of Pine Bluff, Arkansas voted. They said no to the 5/8 cent sales tax and the other tax. What they was actually saying is that we want our city council to run our city. But they said no to this private tax that was on the agenda. Now let me make the best example in the world so maybe everybody can understand it. If you're a man, you'll definitely understand it. If you're a woman, you'll definitely understand this. If you with your partner, male or female, and he or she says no, whether she screamed no out loud or whether she said no softly, it means no. If you attempt to do so, then you are raping her or attempting rape or him or her. We said no, the people said no, and this has been shoved back. So you're forcing a situation on people which is considered to me a rape. So you want to rape Pine Bluff after we said no? For real? The people in Pine Bluff said no. And all along, I have never liked this private group. I spoke my words about it the day it was initiated and until the day we found out there was some money was missing. I'm still under that same content that if you can mismanage almost $750,000 and nobody's head rolled, somebody's head needs to be rolling, and then instead you bring it back like it didn't happen. And then 2 weeks ago, I read in where you had a conflict of somebody on the A&P board that made a motion to give $20,000 to this private group, that he's a member of the board of the private group, and his wife worked for the private group, and it's still okay? It's still okay? I asked this body to disband themselves from this private group. We need to leave it alone because it's constantly giving us a black eye. And if you think that what we have just done to put this on the agenda is not another black eye, it is. And I see everybody that's up for election this particular year, you look out, because our people are gunning for that thought, that you don't care anything about what they said. They said no, and if you bring it back, you're raping them. And that's the point. We have changed the system of municipal government to, we want a private group to do it. And mayor, as a person, I love you, but you're not conducting yourself as a mayor, because no mayor gives a tax to a private group. And then you had a chance to get out of it because the people said no, let it go. But you're still insisting that this happens. This needs to be back into the hands of the people, not to the financial people. We're dealing with the financial people. They come and say, oh, we want it back, and we're going to do it because, I hate to use the statement that Jack Foster did, and he's okay with me, but I have my own thoughts. So you think the people in Pine Bluff, as well as 2 or 3 on the city council, are nuts. You're crazy. There's something wrong with you. You're ignorant. You don't understand. Well, I understand finances is real good. I understand what the people said. The people said no. For the life of me, I cannot figure out why is it back on this agenda. I'm trying to find it. So in the bottom line, when they say the city is dying, they go, oh, it's the city council's fault. Well, don't make it all of the city council members. Just make it a few of them. Do that. Because I'm definitely not trying to make it go down. I'm not trying to hurt this city. I'm trying to improve this city. Some years ago, and I'm gonna do that article for y'all and bring it to you. Some 40 years ago, the article was written, and I got it at home. And I'm gonna let all you read it, where Pine Bluff was dying. Well, one mayor went overseas to find a city to help us to mainstream and do the things that they were doing to make themselves better. So don't sit, but I'm finna be honest with you. This council sitting here, you don't think for yourself. Somebody else do it.
Wait.
Somebody else does it. Hold on. I'm talking.
You will not disrespect
Mayor,
me.
would you please tell me
You
she's
will
out
not.
of order?
You will not.
Mayor,
You will
Mayor,
not.
will you tell her she's out of order?
Councilmember
No,
Brownson.
you are out of order.
Councilmember Brownson.
Because you will not
Tell her
sit
she's out
here
of order.
in a council meeting and say somebody cannot
Tell her
think
she's
for
out of
themselves.
order.
No, you
Mayor.
are.
I'm just gonna say this. I got the floor. You can have it when I finish.
You are out of
Councilmember
order.
Brown.
I have the floor.
You out of order.
I have the floor. And I'm not gonna directly talk to you. I'm talking to the mayor.
Councilmember,
On the other hand, let me just say these things.
Councilmember Brown,
Because
please wrap it up. Thank you.
Mayor, I'm not asking for what Jack Foster asked for. I'm a city council member that I voted by the people, and I'm gonna quit talking when I'm finished. And that's just the
But
bottom
everybody
line.
has to be
cannot,
respectful.
there's no
We have
other
to be
place in
respectful
city
of our
government. There's
time.
no other, Mayor,
These things do not
we
consist
understand
of
that, but there's-
anything
Mayor.
related to your report.
Mayor, let me say this. There's nowhere on the city council's agenda where we can talk about these things. Now, I really want to start us another committee so that we can talk about these things. We're talking whenever we have town hall meetings. When people come to a town hall meeting, they just come and speak, and then it's the end. Nobody says anything. We need to have a meeting that contains the thing that people want in the city. And I'm going to wrap it up when I finish, and that's going to be very shortly. But the main thing I want you all to know about Pine Bluff, the people with the money, the people has the power, don't care about Pine Bluff. We got a rail system, we have a port, we have a beach, we have an arsenal, we have everything a good city could do to make it strive and be busy. And here recently, we got a casino. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's all that. It's the last on my list, but the big industrial park, we have everything. But why is it not producing? Because the big boys don't want it to. That's it. Let me tell you this, and then I'll be finished. For years and years and years, there's been an alderman on this city council, along with myself, have said that the people that live in Pine Bluff want to have a Pine Bluff zip code, a Pine Bluff address. They want their address to say, I stay at 4508 West 17 in Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and not 4508 Whitehall, Arkansas. But the mayor has not done anything to change that. The people in this city wants a grocery store on on the east side of town that we said we gonna get. Has not gotten there. These are the things that concern people. We on this council talk about hiring somebody, talking about giving somebody a raise and giving somebody a tax dollar. Come on. That's not what our people voted for us to do.
And we are working to make things happen, and we have council members who
then
are
I talk
also
about-
working
and
to
then
make
I talk
these
about
things
shopping
happen.
centers, and I talk about shopping areas and eateries, and nobody talks about that. We want to talk about everything for this private group. The people want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want things to happen. We are talking about stuff that doesn't concern the people. It concerns the people with money. And the rest of the city council members can sit here and look like they don't understand what I'm saying, and I guarantee you know. You just don't want to act like you know. And that's the bottom line. And the mayor just said to me, this is not the place for it. Where is the place when we talk about things like this? Where is the place? We come in here every time we meet and we talk about what's on this agenda. What's on the agenda is all we talk about. And there are people that have concerns out there that we say is nothing about. I didn't intend to come in here today to do this. I didn't even think about doing this until today, this morning. So what I'm trying to say to you is, when do we talk about what the people want? Why are we shoving we just voted for something. Why are we shoving it back down these people's throat? Why? Who says that? Who did that? Who promotes that? There are people, including the radio station, want this. They never had anybody to an opposition on that radio station to this private group. Everything was for. You know why? Because the radio station is sucking up the money that's coming from the Go Forward with the private, with the commercials. You know, even when it failed, they were still talking about promises made, promises kept. You know, maybe we can find another 118 or 108 vote, whatever it was. They kept saying that using our tax dollars for that radio station so that radio station can continue to make money. Right now, they don't have the line where you can hear it in different parts of this country because they don't have
Brown,
enough money.
I'm sorry, but we
are-
do
I-
have
Mayor,
a
I got you.
long
I
agenda
understand.
tonight.
I'm telling facts of the way it is.
We're going to ask
I'm
you to
telling
wrap it
like
up,
is.
sir.
Well, Mayor, you're going to probably, if when I finish,
We're asking
I'm
you
gonna
to
be
wrap it
finished.
up, sir.
Mayor, when I finish, I'm
Thank
going
you,
to be finished.
Councilmember Brown.
And all I'm trying to say
Our
is,
next report, we're
these
ready
are
to
the
move
thi-
on to our next report.
But these are the things that we have to consider for our people. And Mayor, I think that that's not polite to stop me because I got permission from you and this council and the municipal government to speak. And I think you're wrong, and you need to go
we
and
need
check
you
that.
to
You're
be
wrong, Mayor.
respectful of our
You're
time.
wrong. This is not a dictatorship.
It's wrong for you not to be respectful of our time.
Mayor, it doesn't matter. These are
It
things
does
need to be
matter.
talked about.
This is not
These are things
business-like.
that, Mayor, I'm
And-
not gonna go with you with that, but these are things that has to be talked about. Instead of talking about giving a tax away to a private group, the things in this city is what we need for the people. They elected us because they like us, because they
You
want
have
us to
said
do
what
things.
you needed to say, and I think you've made your
I'm-
point
I'm
quite
through,
clear.
Mayor. I'm
Thank
through.
you so much.
Mayor, I'm finished.
Thank you. Our next report, thank you, audience. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Our next report will come from Public Health and Welfare, Councilmember Frazier.
Mayor, we met, Public Health and Welfare met on July 12th at 11 a.m. and via Zoom. And we had just one thing that we spoke about, which was a resolution approving the issuance of the Arizona Industrial Development Authority charter school revenue bonds with a due pass. That ends my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Frazier. Yes, ma'am.
Community development sponsorship.
Okay,
You were-
let me address that. That was because it went through administration.
It went
Is
through
that-
administration and his.
But I understand all that, Mayor. I'm just saying,
The attorneys they were not here on Friday, so it was not communicated to Attorney Scott to add Brown Senior to the sponsorship list. But we can add him to that sponsorship list.
Thank you, Ms. Rob, but I'm not really concerned about sponsoring legislation. I want proper order. I want things to go in order. That's just it. We need to stop half-stepping and doing things this time and doing things that time. I just want things to
No,
go in
it went
order.
both-
That's just
It went before both committees, but it had to go through administration because it was an administrative act.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Let's move on to our next committee report coming from Public Works, Councilmember Shaner.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Works has not met since our last meeting, but we do have a meeting
Zoom
What-
only?
What day is it? What day?
Tomorrow at 11 a.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Shiner. Our next committee report will come from Councilmember Lockett, Development and Planning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Development and Planning Committee met in the City Council chambers on July the 11th. We had a hearty discussion. Reports were given by Urban Renewal and Go Forward. We referred, I think, one ordinance related to condemnations and one related to, I think, tax abatement to the agenda. And that ends my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Lockett. Administration, Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Traffic and
Traffic
aviation.
aviation.
Traffic.
Oh, I'm sorry, Traffic and Aviation, I'm sorry about that. Traffic and Aviation, Councilmember Bronson.
Thanks, Mayor. Traffic and Aviation met on July 13th via Zoom and via the City Council chambers at 1:30 p.m. We talked about some emails that I have been receiving about street lights being out. I did get with Mr. Bennett, who was also in attendance. He did say that right now, some of those street lights that need replacing in some of those neighborhoods, he has to review his budget, but he doesn't think that's in the budget for him to do at the moment. But he did say the overpass on 28th will be getting new lighting this year. So he is working on that piece. We also discussed that I am, along with my committee, will be working on the speed hump ordinance, getting that revamped and revised, as well as the naming of the streets ordinance, with working with City Clerk Roberts to get that form updated, so those who are requesting street names, they know the proper protocol to go through. I think that was the only thing that we had discussed. I have not set a next meeting, but we have one before the next council meeting, and that concludes my report.
Councilmember, what was that one thing you said that there wasn't funding for?
The street lights, like neighborhood, those that had some of their street lights out.
If they're out?
Well, they're not out. Well, they need them.
Oh, they just need a
they
new light placed.
It's additional.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they need them, but Mr. Bennett is looking at the budget to try to see how he can get those.
So he has money for street lights that go out, but these are adding new street lights in areas that don't have street lights.
Right.
And we're looking for funding for that as well. There's a
Okay.
grant out there that we're looking at
Okay.
as well for adding street lights. I'm sorry. Okay.
The-
Councilmember Bronson, she was asking, Councilmember
Oh,
Bronson
yes,
did take
Tulsa,
a trip.
yes.
Hold on, Councilmember Bronson.
Okay.
Some of our council members don't realize that there is a job, there's a duty, there's a responsibility for council members. And we have some new council members who have come on board and they accept that charge, the full responsibility. They don't think that everything is just the duty of the mayor or just a precious few, but they're getting out there helping to recruit. So members Frazier and Bronson took a trip to Tulsa, Oklahoma last week to do some investigating on, I think it's Oasis Fresh Foods, looking at bringing a fresh food market to the east side of town to address that food desert that was created by the exit of our Super One store. So they're going to share their experience with us before we move further.
So I know it was talk that a grocery store is not on the east side. That's very prevalent, but there is a lot of work that goes into making sure that we do get another grocery store, a brick and mortar store to the area. So in that process, I have been working with Mr. Aaron Johnson, who is the CEO of Oasis Fresh Market out of Tulsa, which is a black-owned grocery store that not only services the community, but they also have a community impact aspect to the grocery store. Their model fits perfect for what we're doing here in the city of Pine Bluff when you think about the dynamics and how it can serve people here in the city. So, making contact with him, I've been in contact with him for a few months, but trying to get everything aligned with that. But it was important to go down to Tulsa to make face-to-face contact with him. Also, when we were there, the Federal Trade Commissioner from DC was there, and they're trying to use their store as a model for other disenfranchised communities where grocery stores are needed. So right now we are at the table with them already, and they're excited about the expansion of coming to the city of Pine Bluff because they get it, they understand our need, and we are here giving them what they, we give them another blueprint to what they can do for the community. So if you have not read, look in the Pine Bluff commercial. It was in Sunday's paper, the write-up on what we did when we was in Tulsa and what is to come for the city of Pine Bluff.
Did you have comments to add?
No, I just want to say, although that wasn't my ward, again, like I always say, we are here to represent our whole city. So when she asked me if I would be able to attend with her, I definitely went. And it was an experience. The Oasis Fresh Market, black owned and ran, is absolutely phenomenal. And nice, clean, bright store, stock shelves. I mean, just, I can see it here in Pine Bluff on an even bigger level, which we have discussed with AJ and them. And so we're excited about it.
Did you have the building owners that own the property
Yes.
in this conversation, as part of this conversation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
That's important.
yeah, so just because we don't get on social media and blab it to the newspaper and all that stuff does not mean we're not working. It does not mean that we don't take seriously what is going on in our city. We do. But we're just about the work and not about talking about it. We don't want to talk about it. We just want to do the work.
Very good.
So
Let's give these two councilmen a big round of applause for their initiative to move out and recruit a business for this city. This is what council members do when they are committed to the work, and that's what we need. Okay? Moving forward, administration, Councilmember Holcomb Jr.
Thank you, Mayor. The administration committee has not met since our last council meeting. I will let the clerk's office know when we meet on our next meeting.
You will notify the clerk's office.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Councilmember Holcomb.
At this point, may I ask that you, council member chair of the committee, please try to identify a standard meeting date?
Yes,
Yeah.
mine is the second Tuesday.
I got you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just 1 minute. Let me finish this last report here. Let's finish the last report and then we'll ask that question. Public Safety, Councilmember Brown Jr.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Safety has not met, and I typically have a set date, but the holidays kind of threw things off. But we will, I will check with my committee members and see if we can meet maybe Wednesday of next week, if that's possible, and that's okay. Councilmember Brunson, Wednesday, 1:30.
That'll be fine.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and set the meeting for Wednesday at 1:30. I know it's a little off, but just the holiday kind of threw things off a little bit. And so I have no report because we haven't met, but we will have our meeting next Wednesday at 1:30 in the council chambers.
Very good. So for the sake of time tonight, those of you who don't have a set, standard committee time, get with the clerk's office and let's get that established. Sometimes we know that might vary, but let's make sure we get those standard times set for your committee meetings with Clerk Roberts. Moving into our committee reports, proposed ordinances and resolutions. Councilmember Holcomb.
Agenda item 1, an ordinance amending section 2-181 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, respecting limitation of terms as regards to the Planning Commission and for related purposes up for the second reading.
An ordinance amending section 2-181 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, respecting limitation of terms as it regards to the Planning Commission and for related purposes.
Place it on the calendar. Agenda item number 2, an ordinance amending the technology and use in private policy, section 1-2 of non-uniform employees handbook up for the first reading.
Whereas the Human Resources Department has recommended certain changes to section 1.2 of the non-uniformed employees handbook to add a social media policy. And whereas because the social media represents certain risks and carries with it certain responsibilities, the non-uniform handbook should establish guidelines to assist employees in making responsible decisions when using social media. And whereas the recommended change to the non-uniform handbook is in the best interest of the city of Pine Bluff. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, that Section 1.2, Technology and Use Privacy Policy of the Non-Uniformed Employee Handbook of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Paragraph 6, regarding the subsection captioned Internet and Electronic Mail Policy is amended to add Paragraph 6E to be captioned Social Media Policy. Employees should never represent themselves as a spokesperson for the city. If the city of Pine Bluff is the subject of the content the employee is creating, the employee must be clear and open about the fact that they are an employee and make it clear that their views do not represent those of the city. If an employee does publish a blog or a post online related to the work they do, it is best to include a disclaimer such as the postings on the site are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the city. Social media is not the appropriate venue to address workplace grievances. Employees are encouraged to continue to avail themselves of the grievance procedures set forth in Section 2 and 5 of this handbook. Employees should refrain from posting on social media while at work unless it is authorized by the department head and consistent with the policy. Employees should not use their city email to register for social networks, blogs, or other online tools utilized for personal use. The City of Pine Bluff prohibits taking negative action against any employee for reporting a possible deviation from this policy or cooperating in an investigation and will be subject to disciplinary action up to termination. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance is held invalid, such invalidity shall not affect any other portion of the ordinance. Section 3, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are repealed. Section 4, this ordinance not being of a general or permanent nature, it need not be published. That's it.
Place it on the calendar. Agenda item number 3. An ordinance amending section 7-9 of the non-uniform employee handbook regarding authorized leave of absence up for the first reading.
Whereas the Human Resources Department has recommended certain changes to Section 7.9 of the Non-Uniformed Employee Handbook pertaining to authorized leave of absence. And whereas the recommended changes of the Non-Uniform Handbook is in the best interest of the City of Pine Bluff. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, that Section 7.9 of the Non-Uniform Employee Handbook of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended to change the first caption from authorized leave of absence to the following. Number 1, authorized medical leave. Section 2, that Section 7.9 of the Non-Uniform Employee Handbook of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas is amended to add the attached new subsection captioned authorized personal leave. And Section 3, that if any part of this ordinance is held to be invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the other portion of this ordinance. Section 4, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with Section 7.9 of the Non-Uniform Employee Handbook is hereby repealed. Section 5, this ordinance not being of a general or permanent nature, it need not be published.
Place it on the calendar. Agenda item number 4. An ordinance amending provision in section 4-2 of the non-uniform employee handbook regarding tardiness up for the first reading.
Whereas the city's non-uniform employee handbook establishes that general office hours for most employees are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. However, hours and workdays may vary within each department. And whereas notwithstanding, employees are expected to be at his or her assigned workstation at the designated time. And whereas the Human Resources Department has recommended certain changes to Section 4.2 of the Non-Uniform Employee Handbook pertaining to reporting to work in a timely fashion. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, that Section 4.2 pertaining to hours of work in the Non-Uniform Employee Handbook is hereby amended to add the following new paragraph captioned tardiness, following the first paragraph in that subsection, normal work periods. Employees are expected to be at their workstation and prepared to perform his or her duties and responsibilities at the scheduled time. Regardless of explanation, excessive absenteeism and tardiness are subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Tardiness is defined as arriving late for work or returning late from breaks and meals. Section 2, if any part of this ordinance is held to be invalid, such invalidity shall not affect the other portion of this ordinance. Section 3, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith are hereby repealed. Section 4, this ordinance not being of a general or permanent nature, it need not be published.
Place it on the calendar.
Just a minute. I asked this in the meeting when it came through the administration. What prompted this particular piece of legislation that I did not get a proper answer for? And so, if possible, I would like to get that answer now. Now, I know that you putting it on the calendar, but we did make some kind of resolution to ourselves that we could discuss it even before it got to the last reading.
Well, we have Ms. Vicky Conaway.
Excuse me?
We have Ms. Vicky Conaway, Human Resource
Okay,
Director.
well, I'm just
right
trying to figure out, Pine Bluff didn't just wake up last week,
here. And
2 weeks ago.
And
when
we
had
gave you the
meeting.
answer in the administration
Okay, just a
committee,
second.
and we're gonna give it to you again.
And I agree with Councilmember Holcomb. We did give a response for that, but Ms. Conaway is here
Yeah,
to
but
reinstate that.
Can I finish before you tell me that she's over there? I see her. I just want to know that we have been existing for years, and all of a sudden now we just opened up something that we did not. We already had employees, so we've been. What is the problem? Is something on the book
Well,
already?
if you
I know
let her
she's
speak,
gonna tell me.
she'll answer your
No,
question.
you know what I'm getting at. Somebody's mad at somebody. That's right. Go ahead.
It's not a problem at this
Somebody's
time.
mad
It's
at
just something
somebody.
that needs to be in the handbook along with the other changes, and there'll probably be more changes made. We need to keep our handbook updated. And
Somehow I can't hear you real good. You know,
okay, well,
yeah.
okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There's nothing that prompted it. It's something that's needed for the handbook because we don't have anything addressing tardiness.
But you
Noth-
know how long we'd existed?
Yes, and we have different kind of employees back in 50 years ago than we do now as well. We have existed a long time. I've been here 30 years. So I know that as time changes, we just need to kind of make a few changes to the handbook. And we'll continue to do that.
I just wanted to make it duly noted that I wanted to know why somebody's upset with somebody because, Pine Bluff been here for years. But you're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Ms. Conaway, so you approved this,
I haven't approved anything. I've just submitted to the council
but you
to be
agreed
voted
to.
on.
I'm just saying, cause it should have been done. But,
Yeah.
but so it just should be enforced now.
So y'all want people to be late for work every day. That's not okay. People need a standard, a policy, and a procedure on when they need to be at work.
Well, let me finish. Can I finish?
I'm just saying, like, y'all, this is common.
Can
like,
I finish? I'm all for this. I understand what she's saying. It should have been addressed.
And nobody understood what I said. We've been a city for years.
Yeah.
So why all of a sudden we just got a tardy rule, a tardy ordinance? We've been a city. People had to be on time for years. What prompted this particular ordinance?
people are late. That's what. They're not coming to work on time.
Been late all their life.
Okay, well today it's gonna be in policy, in procedure.
Thank you, Ms. Conway, for my answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Matter of updating, she's taken the initiative to properly update the handbook.
She answered me and I answered them too, that somebody's mad at somebody. That's the reason why this come up, because Pine Bluff been here for 100 years.
Thank you,
and
Ms.
We've
Conaway.
been tardy. So it's okay with me, I'm fine.
Let's move on. Councilmember Holcomb.
Agenda item number 5, an ordinance providing for the coordination of the efforts between city departments and the city clerk's office to assist the city clerk's office in its performance of statutory obligations as regard to the examination of receipts and disbursements, the viewing of required reports and documentation requirements. Up for the first reading.
Whereas good management of public funds requires checks and balances, and the maintenance of documentation and access to financial reports are an essential part of good management. And whereas the city clerk's office has an important role to play as a check and balance via examination of receipts, invoices, and disbursements. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, as authorized by Arkansas Code annotated section 1443-506, the city clerk's office shall have all rights and privileges needed to perform its part as a check and balance in the administration of public funds, and the city departments which are charged with the administration of the city's finances should cooperate with the clerk's office to ensure it is provided with access within the city's financial management information system known as New World or Tyler Technology to carry out the statutory responsibilities of the office vis-a-vis reviewing receipts and invoices, examining disbursements, record keeping, and generating reports as required by law.
Places on the calendar. Agenda item number 6, an ordinance amending Article 1 in Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, to add new Section 2-7 respecting the assentation of documents by the city clerk for related purposes, up for the first reading.
Whereas state auditors reviewing the city's contracts have noted that clerk's attestation of the mayor's signature should be included on city documents which require the mayor's signature, and whereas city code should be amended to so provide. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that Section 1, Article 1 in Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Pine Bluff is amended to add a new Section 7-2, which shall provide, whenever the mayor acts in an official capacity to sign an ordinance, resolution, deed, contract, or other official document, it shall be the duty of the city clerk to attest the mayor's signature and affix the seal to the document. Section 2, a document executed prior to the effective date of this ordinance shall not be considered invalid if not compliant with the provisions hereof, so long as the deed or contract is otherwise valid under Arkansas or federal law. Section 3, that an ordinance or part thereof in conflict with this ordinance is repealed to the extent of the conflict. Section 4, the provisions of this ordinance are several. If one provision is held to be unlawful, the other provisions will continue to be given full force and effect. Section 5, this ordinance being of a general and permanent nature, the clerk will ensure its publication as required by law. Section 6, this ordinance takes effect on the 31st day after its adoption.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Now, I guess with this ordinance, now we're going to read it 2 more times, but doesn't the clerk already sign off on any contracts? I mean, aren't you the person that would?
That's correct, and it's just as Mrs. That is correct, and it's just as the Human Resource Department is cleaning up and doing proper policy procedures.
Right.
And that's just simply what we're doing, just putting it in there. It's not that we're not doing it, it's just adding it to it.
Okay. All right. I was just wondering, 'cause I thought, as the contracts were signed, then the city clerk would be the person that would
It just
sign
needs to be in the policy. It's not that we're not doing it.
They're doing it, it's just not in the policy. She's trying to make it in, put it in here, so we have it in writing.
It's just policy form.
Okay. All right.
We're doing it, but it's just need to be.
That's my only question.
Any other questions? All right. Places on the calendar. Agenda item number 7, an ordinance providing for the levy of 5/8 of 1%, 0.625 sales and use tax within the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, for a period of 7 years, commencing October 1st, 2024, terminating September 30th, 2031, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto, up for the first reading.
Whereas the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas has determined that there is a need for a temporary source of revenue to fund general purposes of the city government. And whereas Title 26, Chapter 75, Subchapter 2 of the Arkansas Code of the 1987 annotated provides for the levy of a citywide sales and use tax at the rate of 0.125% or 0.25%, 0.5%, or 0.75%, or 1%, or any combination thereof. And whereas the city is currently levying a 0.625% sales and use tax that is used to fund general purposes of city government, and the existing 0.625% sales and use tax will terminate on September 30th, 2024. And whereas the City Council has proposed the levy of a statewide sales and use tax at the rate of 6.25% under the authority of the authorizing legislation, the net collections of which will be used for general purposes of city government. And whereas the proposed 0.625% sales and use tax will be levied beginning October 1, 2024 for a period of 7 years ending September 30th, 2031, and will replace the existing 0.625% sales and use tax when it expires. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, under the authority of the authorizing legislation, there is hereby levied a 0.625% tax on the gross receipts from the sale at retail within the city limits, the city of all items which are subject to the Arkansas Gross Receipts Act of 1941 as amended, and the imposition of an excise tax on the storage, use, distribution, or other consumption within the city of tangible personal property subject to the Arkansas Compensating Tax Act of 1949 as amended, at a rate of 0.625% of the sales tax of the property, or in the case of leases or rentals, of the lease or rental price. The sales and use tax shall be levied and collected on the gross receipts, gross proceeds, or gross price in the maximum amount allowed from time to time by Arkansas law, subject to rebates and limitations as from time to time required by Arkansas statutes for certain single transactions. Section 2, the sales and use tax shall be levied for a period of 7 years commencing October 1, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2031. Section 3, the sales and use tax shall be levied, and the net collections received after the deduction of the administrative charges of the state of Arkansas and required rebates shall be used by the city to fund general purposes of city government, including particularly without limitation the construction and operation of the Delta Rhythm and Bayous Cultural District infrastructure necessary to develop housing in the city, park and recreational improvements to include construction and operation of a movie theater to be owned by the city, and upgrades to existing parks. Section 4, all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 5, this ordinance shall not take effect until an election is held on the question of levying the sales and use tax, at which a majority of the electors voting on the question shall have approved the levy of the sales and use tax.
Place it on the calendar. Agenda item number 8, an ordinance calling for a special election in the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas on the question of the levying a citywide 5/8 on 1%, 0.6.2 sales and use tax for a period of 7 years, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto.
Whereas the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas has passed on blank 2023 ordinance number blank, providing for the levy of a 0.625 sales and use tax within the city for a period of 7 years commencing on October 1 and ending September 30, 2031. And whereas the purpose of this ordinance is to call a special election on the question of the levy of the sales and use tax. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, there is hereby called a special election to be held on November 14th, 2023, at which election there shall be submitted to the electors of the city the question of the levy of the sales and use tax. Section 2, the question of levying the sales and use tax shall be placed on the ballot for the election in substantially the following form: 0.625% sales and use tax, adoption of a 0.625% local sales and use tax within the city of Pine Bluff for a period of 7 years commencing October 1, 2024 and ending September 30th, 2031, the net collections of which remaining after deduction of the administrative charges of the state of Arkansas and required rebates will be used to fund general purposes of the city government, including particularly without limitation the construction and operation of the Delta Rhythm and Bayous Cultural District, infrastructure necessary to develop public housing in the city, parks and recreational improvements to include construction and operation of a movie theater to be owned by the city, and upgrades to existing parks, for or against. Section 3, the election shall be held and conducted and the vote canvassed and the results declared under the law and in the manner now provided for municipal elections, and only qualified voters of the city shall have the right to vote at the election. Section 4, the results of the election shall be proclaimed by the mayor, and such proclamation shall be published one time in a newspaper having a general circulation in the city, which proclamation shall advise that the results as proclaimed shall be conclusive unless attacked in the courts within 30 days after the date of publication. Section 5, a copy of this ordinance shall be filed with the Jefferson County Clerk at least 70 days prior to the election date and given to the Jefferson County Board of Election Commissioners so that the necessary election officials and supplies may be provided. A certified copy of this ordinance shall also be provided to the Commissioner of Revenues of the state of Arkansas as soon as practical. Section 6, the mayor and city clerk for and on behalf of the city are hereby authorized and directed to do any and all things necessary to call and hold the special election as herein provided, and if the levy of the sales and use tax is approved by the electors, to cause the sales and use tax to be collected and to perform all acts of whatever nature necessary to carry out the authority conferred by this ordinance. Section 7, all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith are repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 8, the provisions of this ordinance are separable, and if a section, phrase, or provision shall be declared invalid, the declaration shall not affect the validity of the remainder of the ordinance.
This ordinance been up for the first reading.
Hey, let me say this here. How did the Delta Rhythm and Blues get in here?
I want to know that too.
And the movie
What's the purpose of
theater,
that?
I mean, someone
That's
had a
another
movie
sucker.
theater
That's
and they
another
came in.
sucker.
What are we doing? How did they?
So that's where the money was coming from. That's what we voted on. We voted on
No.
that the money given to the Delta Blues
That's a sucker.
District.
That's a sucker.
was given from the 5/8 cent sales tax.
But that was
That's a sucker
separate.
bite.
That was separate.
Yeah, that's
No,
a sucker bite there.
Where
It
do you
was-
think the money was coming from?
No, but you put it in there on this tax. That's a sucker bite. Come on, people.
That's not a sucker bite.
Yeah, man, you
That's
can't.
where the
Y'all
money
need to
was
stop
coming
trying to.
from the get-go.
You didn't put that in the first time. It's a sucker bite right now.
Okay, well, let me clear some things up real quick. So, the $2 million that was already promised to that project, the cultural district, that will come from the 2017 sales tax. This money from this tax will be new monies going to the cultural district. So it's not the same money, it's gonna be new money. So we're adding to it.
Where's Jimmy? Jimmy Cunningham, is he still here?
But it's a sucker bite. That's all it is. It's
Yeah, y'all just taking these people money and they just sitting back letting y'all do it. Really?
Nobody's taking nobody's money.
Y'all doing what you want to do.
Who
And
is-
at the end of the day, it's nothing going on out there. We both say that go forward and the committee.
So
the aldermen are fighting over what's going on.
So we
in
don't want to
Pine
fund.
Bluff.
So we don't want to fund the cultural district.
I thought it was already funded.
It's not fully
What
funded.
did Jimmy go to?
Well, Councilman May, we not fighting. You the one fighting.
Well, I'm listening.
No, you
What-
not
what
listening.
I'm hearing-
You hear what you want to hear.
What I'm hearing, it's not right.
We
So
have
it's-
read ordinance number
look
8.
at the town when you ride home.
We have read ordinance number 8. We are ready to move on to legislation item number 9.
Thank you, Mayor.
how's that place on calendar? You gotta place it on.
We've placed this one on the
I've
calendar.
already said it. Well, I was interrupted. It's up for the first reading. Place it on the calendar.
Proceed.
Number 9, agenda item number 9, An ordinance providing for the levy of 3/8 of the 1%, 0.3.75 sales and use tax within the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and prescribing other matters pertaining to, up for the first reading.
Whereas the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas has determined that there is a need for an additional source of revenue to be used for police and fire department purposes. And whereas Title 26, Chapter 75, Subchapter 3 of the Arkansas Code of 1987, annotated, provides for the levy of a citywide sales and use tax at the rate of 0.125%, 0.25%, 0.5%, 0.75%, or 1%, or any combination thereof. And whereas the City Council has proposed the levy of a citywide sales and use tax at the rate of 0.375 under the authority of the authorizing legislation, the net collections of which will be used for police and fire department purposes. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, under the authority of the authorizing legislation, there is hereby levied a 0.375% tax on the gross receipts from the sale at retail within the city of all items which are subject to the Arkansas Gross Receipts Act of 1941 as amended, and the imposition of an excise tax on the storage, use, distribution, and other consumption within the city of tangible personal property subject to Arkansas compensating tax of 1949 as amended at a rate of 0.375% of the sales price of the property, or in the case of leases or rentals of the lease or rental price. The sales and use tax will be levied and collected on the gross receipts, gross proceeds, or sales price in the maximum amount allowed from time to time by Arkansas law, subject to rebates and limitations as from time to time required by Arkansas statutes for certain single transactions. Section 2, the sales and use tax shall be levied, and the net collections received after deduction of the administrative charges of the state of Arkansas and required rebates shall be used for police and fire purposes, including particularly without limitation an annual bonus on or before December 25th for each uniform officer or fire officer in a minimum amount of $2,000, an annual contribution to the insurance premium of each uniformed officer and fire officer in a minimum amount of $1,200, and capital purchases for the fire and the police department. Section 3, all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of the conflict. Section 4, this ordinance shall not take effect until an election is held on the question levying the sales and use tax, at which a majority of the electors voting on the question shall have approved the levy of the sales and use tax.
Place it on the calendar.
Hey, let me say this here. This was all voted down, and now it's coming back up. Let me tell you what the Bible says. Don't touch my anointed and don't do my prophets any harm.
Thank you, sir. Move on.
Agenda item number 10, an ordinance calling for a special election in the city of Pine Bluff, Arkansas on the question of the levying a citywide 3/8 of the 1%, 0.375 sales and use tax, and prescribing other matters pertaining thereto, up for the first reading.
Whereas the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas has passed in 2023 an ordinance providing for the levy of a 0.375 sales and use tax within the city, and whereas the purpose of this ordinance is to call a special election on the question of the levy of the sales and use tax. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, there is hereby called a special election to be held on November 14th, 2023, at which election there shall be submitted to the electors of the city the question of the levy of the sales and use tax. Section 2, the question of levying the sales and use tax shall be placed on the ballot for the election in substantially the following form: 0.375 sales and use tax. Adoption of a 0.375% sales and use tax within the city of Pine Bluff, the net collections of which remaining after deduction of administrative charges of the state of Arkansas and required rebates will be used for police and fire department purposes, including particularly without limitation annual bonus on or before December 25th for each uniformed police officer and fire officer in a minimum amount of $2,000, an annual contribution to the insurance premium of each uniformed police and fire officer in a minimum amount of $1,200, and capital purchases for police and fire department, for or against. Section 3, the election shall be held and conducted and the vote canvassed and the results declared under the law and in the manner provided for municipal elections, and only qualified voters of the city shall have the right to vote at the election. Section 4, the results of the election shall be proclaimed by the mayor, and that such proclamation shall be published one time in a newspaper having a general circulation in the city, which proclamation shall advise that the results as proclaimed shall be conclusive unless attacked in the courts within 30 days after the date of publication. Section 5, a copy of this ordinance shall be filed with the Jefferson County Clerk at least 70 days prior to the election date and given to the Jefferson County Board of Election Commissioners so that the necessary election officials and supplies may be provided. A certified copy of this ordinance shall be provided to the Commissioner of Revenues of the state of Arkansas as soon as practical. Section 6, the mayor and city clerk for and on behalf of the city are hereby authorized and directed to do any and all things necessary to call and hold the special election as herein provided, if the levy of the sales and use tax is approved by the electors, to cause the sales and use tax to be collected and to perform all acts whatever nature necessary to carry out the authority conferred by this ordinance. Section 7, all ordinances and parts thereof in conflict herewith are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 8, the provisions of this ordinance are separable, and if a section, phrase, or provision shall be declared invalid, such declaration shall not affect the validity of the remainder of the ordinance.
Place it on the calendar.
Yeah, hold on a second. Now, is this a resolution or ordinance?
It's an ordinance.
It says resolution.
We're not gonna win this tonight, Mays. Let's
No,
leave it alone.
It's number 11, right?
We're not gonna win this tonight.
This is number 10, and number 10 is an ordinance. Number 11 is a resolution, so you're right on that for number 11. Move on, please.
Well, they just
Thank
said.
you.
What did you say? 11?
We said number 10 is an ordinance, number 11 is a resolution. And now we're moving to number 11, which is a resolution. Council member?
Agenda item number 11.
Mayor, before we move to number 11, I need to state the location as to where they will be published for public viewing. For record, these 4 ordinances will be published at Walmart, Pine Bluff Library, Jefferson County Courthouse, Pine Bluff Aquatic Center, and Super One Foods for viewing as well as viewing in the city clerk's office. That's for public viewing. That's for public viewing.
Resolution number 11.
Resolution number 11, a resolution approving the issuance of the Arizona Industrial Development Authority Charter School Revenue Bonds.
Whereas the Arizona Industrial Development Authority has represented that it is authorized by Title 35, Chapter 5, Article 2 of the Arizona Revised Statutes to issue bonds for the benefit of multiple charter schools in multiple states, the interest on which is tax exempt. And whereas Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended requires that in order for the interest on such bonds to be tax exempt, a properly noticed public hearing with respect to the issuance of such bonds and the facilities to be financed, refinanced, or reimbursed thereby be held in the jurisdiction in which the facilities being financed, refinanced, or reimbursed are located, and that such approval be provided by the governing body or the chief elected representative of each jurisdiction. And whereas the authority intends to issue one or more series or issues of its charter school revenue bonds from time to time for the benefit of multiple charter schools in multiple states in the principal amount not to exceed $22 million with respect to the project, and to loan the proceeds thereto Equitable Facilities Fund Incorporated, a Delaware non-stock corporation described in section 501c3 of the code, or Equitable School Revolving Fund LLC, a Delaware limited liability company affiliate of the Equitable Facilities Fund that is disregarded for federal tax purposes, and the lender will use proceeds of the bonds to finance or refinance the loan, or for the benefit of Friendship Aspire Arkansas Incorporated, an Arkansas nonprofit corporation and its affiliates, including but not limited to Main Street Campus LLC and Hazel Street Campus LLC, each an Arkansas limited liability company, to finance, refinance, and reimburse the costs of the project. And whereas Friendship may use proceeds from the loan, finance, or refinance with sale proceeds of the bond to finance and or refinance the acquisition, construction, expansion, remodeling, renovation, improvement, furnishing, and or equipping of the educational facility located at 3911 South Hazel Street and 700 South Main Street, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and other capital projects at 3911 South Hazel Street and 700 South Main Street, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that will be owned and operated by Friendship, subject to all applicable development and building codes, ordinances, and approvals of Jefferson County, Arkansas, with respect to the construction projects in the county. And whereas the authority has requested the city provide host approval under section 147F of the code in connection with the ultimate use of the sales proceeds of the bonds in the city. And whereas the city has been assured that there will be no financial liability accruing to the city as a result of such approval, and that this approval shall constitute approval solely for the purpose of permitting Friendship to proceed with the use of the sales proceeds of the bond in the city. And whereas pursuant to the requirements of the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982, the code Friendship provided for the publication of notice of a open public hearing to permit the public to comment on the proposed use of the sales proceeds of the bonds. And whereas the notice was published on July 9th, 2023 in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette and in the Pine Bluff Commercial, each newspaper of general circulation in the city, which publication dates are more than 7 days prior to today's date. And whereas on today's date, the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas has held an open public hearing permitting the public to comment on the proposed issuance and use of the sales proceeds of the bond. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that the use by Friendship of the sales proceeds of the bonds in the city and the issuance of the bonds pursuant to the plan of finance as described in the notice of public hearing are hereby approved.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It has been moved and properly second that a resolution approving the issuance of the Arizona Industrial Development Authority Charter School revenue bonds be approved. The floor is open for discussion.
What is this?
These are revenue bonds that are being distributed to the Friendship Aspire Charter School. And this was presented in an open hearing just before our meeting. I think you had not made it, but Attorney Edwards, who's representing them tonight, will explain to you.
She was up when I walked in. That's why I totally missed it. Can you tell me why is Hazel spelled with two L's over
Yes, sir, that's the name of the company that will own the campus on Hazel Street.
Okay. I was just wondering, that's it. But you were up when I walked in, so I missed it.
I will answer any questions that you have.
So,
I'm good, I'll read through it, but I need to know that, thank you.
Yes, sir.
so you're saying $22 million?
Up to $22 million.
And how long have we been discussing this? We had a meeting, the open meetings for the public?
The public meeting was held at the beginning of this meeting tonight?
Did we have more than one?
No, sir, we're only required to have one meeting under the Internal Revenue Code.
A resolution for $22 million?
No,
Listen, Councilman
it's
Mays.
not a revolution for 22.
A
No,
resolution.
the money is not coming from
us.
City of Pine Bluff.
That's correct.
They just have to have our approval because the facilities are located in Pine Bluff. They're gonna get the loan monies and they're gonna be responsible for repaying those on their own. The city's not responsible for repaying the loans. If something happens, if it defaults, the city is not liable. It's just a process that they have to go through in order to fulfill their paperwork requirements that the city that has the facilities, that city council or city board
Now-
has to approve it.
Now, can she speak?
Well, okay, we've already said it, but go ahead.
Thank you. So the bonds are being issued by Arizona Industrial Development Authority and will be loaned to Friendship Aspire of Aspire Arkansas by the Equitable Financial Fund. So the city has no financial responsibility related to this project. Because these are tax exempt bonds, the Internal Revenue Code for tax exempt bonds requires that the host city, which is the city where the project is located, hold a public hearing and approve the issuance of the bonds and the use of those proceeds in the city. So that's why we're here tonight, just to ask for your approval to use those funds in the city. Has no
22 million.
financial impact on the city of Pine Bluff.
Any other questions before Attorney Edwards takes her seat? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much.
Appreciate you letting us be here.
Did we have our motion to
Yes, ma'am.
accept discussion?
I second it.
All right. Floor is open for discussion. Any other discussion or questions before we vote? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution approved.
Agenda item number 12, a resolution authorizing the use of eminent domain to acquire easements for installation of sanitary sewer lines along North University Avenue.
Whereas the Public Works Department is undertaking the University Drive Sewer Project to provide sanitary sewer along North University Drive from the 1700 block north to its intersection with McFadden Road, with construction necessary on both sides of University Drive. And whereas a number of easements across private property are necessary for the successful completion of the project, which must be acquired by negotiation, donation, or litigation. And whereas federal regulation and state law require that the owners of the property be burdened by the easement to be notified. Whereas federal regulation and state law require that the owners of the property to be burdened by the easement be notified in advance that eminent domain will be used to acquire the easement if needed. Now therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that the Public Works Director is authorized to receive donations, negotiations for purchase for fair market value and exercise the municipality's power of eminent domain for this public project to acquire the needed easements along either or both sides of North University Avenue from the 1700 block to its intersection with McFadden Road in the city. All required written notices and documentation shall be provided the affected law owners by the Public Works Director.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that a resolution authorizing the use of eminent domain to acquire easements for installation of sanitary sewer lines along North University Drive be approved. The floor is open for discussion.
Yes.
Councilmember Mays, I know that you're going to note here that this is in your ward. It is in Ward 4. Okay, and we're not going to take anybody's property. We'll approach these property owners for sale, reasonable sale, and if that doesn't work, then we can use eminent domain to acquire the easements that will be needed to install the sewer lines. This is that sewer improvement project that's coming through the opera funds for the north side. Any
okay.
other questions or discussion?
Now, can I hear from Mr. Matthews?
Mr. Matthews, do you have anything to add to what I just said?
Come on, talk to the, no, don't do that.
It's
This is-
standard
This
procedure.
is my ward and my people
It's
over
time
there.
to go home, Mr. Matthews. Make it quick.
This is for the people in my ward now.
Okay, this is a standard process on any public works project, not only sewer, any project that we do that are in the city right of ways. We have to notify them, so it's nothing unusual, standard policy, all been made.
Standard,
Okay, you
proper
talk to the people
protocol.
in my ward now. I get some phone calls, I'm coming to you.
Well, that's fine, send them on to me.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Mr. Matthews.
Any other questions or
Mr. Matthews,
discussion?
I'm so glad this is happening. Okay.
Any other questions or discussion?
Got one comment, Mayor.
I have one coming.
One comment.
One comment, yes.
Yeah, this is just part of the city's adding more. I've been on the north side, I grew up on the north side, but I didn't know there was not wastewater on the left side of University Drive going north from, say, the Cedar Cabin all the way to PJ's. I did not know that, and I'm just happy to be an alderperson that is in a place where now we can develop that side of University Drive with adequate wastewater infrastructure.
And that need to be bold.
Okay. Very
Thank
good.
you.
And then we have several other sewer projects that are underway as well. And that's all made possible through the ARPA funds, and we're so thankful for that source. If there are no other questions or comments, let's vote. All in favor of resolution item number 12, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution approved.
Agenda item number 13, a resolution calling for forensic audit of all collections and city expenditures of taxes collected via the 2017 5/8 sales and use tax.
Whereas Pine Bluff approved a general sales and use tax in the amount of 5/8 cents on the dollar in 2017, commonly referred to as the go-forward tax. And whereas this tax has generated millions of dollars since collection began and expenditures have been made for various purposes and projects. And whereas all citizens of Pine Bluff, particularly those who advocated for the adoption of the tax and the promised benefits it was to generate, are entitled to full transparency and accounting for the expenditure of public tax dollars as part of the public-private partnership between the city and the Go Forward Pine Bluff entity. And whereas fundamental questions regarding how the tax funds have been spent must be answered to allay public concern which has grown by the discovery of the diversion of funds from the Urban Renewal Agency. And whereas public confidence in those tax dollars being properly administered and spent compels the retention of an independent party to audit the records of receipts and expenditures of the tax from inception and initial collection until July 1st, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that a qualified certified public accountant or accountancy firm, which is independent from the city, be retained to undertake a forensic financial audit of all collections, receipts, and expenditures of the 2017 5/8 sales and use tax from the beginning and throughout the period it has been levied and collected until July 1, 2023. Section 2, that the accountant should prepare and submit to the mayor and city council the audit and report setting forth any questions, issues, or observations which may be brought to the attention of the governing body and chief executive. Section 3, the accountant or accountancy firm shall be retained and the audit begin no later than 30 days from the date of this from the date this resolution is approved.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that a resolution calling for a forensic audit of all collections and city expenditures of taxes collected via the 2017 5/8 sales and use tax be approved. The floor is open for comments or discussion.
I have the comment
Brown
discussion.
Jr.
Yes, so the 5/8 cent sales tax, as well as all the other funds that the city collects, are under legislative audit. They get audited yearly, so there's really no need for us to have another audit on monies that have already been audited. The audit has already taken place.
That's correct.
Yeah, I'd like to, Matt, just point out.
Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Lockett and then Brown Senior.
Yeah, I think one difference between a forensic audit and a regular audit, I think most people are unaware that audits are not thorough. They are just a random sampling of receipts, and I usually don't have a whole bunch of excitement about having independent entities investigate the city, but I just get so many questions from my citizens about how this money is being spent, and it's so much going on with this money that is not under the control of the city that I just feel that having another set of eyes on it wouldn't hurt.
When I saw this, Councilmember Brown
No,
Senior.
you go ahead, Mayor.
No, go right ahead. I can come last.
No, I just think that if we all here for the city and we all here about the taxpayers' money and responsibility that we're supposed to render to them with their tax dollars, I think this would be perfect for us. And I see it no other way for, these questions to be answered, and especially in lieu of the things that we've seen over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months. Maybe it should have been going on for a whole year or so. So I just think this is a perfect way to satisfy some people. And that's just the way I feel about that.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Council members?
Yes.
No, I want you to finish so I can be last.
I feel like this is a good ordinance. I'm for it. I mean, it's time to really look at our cash flow in the city. There's a lot of things that you got Go Forward, which is under the city council, who wants to be equal to the city council, and actually, this is some good legislation, and I just ask all of you all to support it to get our city back on track, because it's a lot gonna come out eventually in this city, because I just feel like Mr. Taggart gonna tell everything what's going on. He gonna tell everything, and I hope he does.
Mayor, after you,
Well,
I have something else after yours.
I'm through.
Well, my concern is, I did look at the word forensic audit, and I know that they can be done. We have to do an RFQ, and I'll go through that process, but it's going to be costly. So where do you recommend that we find the funds for this audit? That really, Lockett?
Where do we find the funds?
Yeah,
Well, Madam Mayor, what is the cost?
I don't know. Once we find out, I just know that they're not cheap. And you're talking about going back to from 2017 all the way up to 2023 with all money that was taken in and all invoices, everything that was spent. So it's pretty costly. So let's consider that as we move forward. Councilmember Brown Jr., you had a comment?
I guess my question was, I wanted to know what exactly that the legislative audit would not pick up that this one would. I mean, are we giving them some type of, do you have to give them a focus, or do you have to tell them, okay, this is what we're looking for? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out, is that by doing this forensic audit,
Right.
what would make it? Well, I'm still speaking. Okay. All right. So by doing this forensic audit, what exactly are we trying to pull? I mean, because we've already had it. It's been audited 5 or 6 times already. So I just want to know, what exactly are we looking for?
I think the difference between the regular audit and a forensic audit, that the audit that they normally do does the whole city. It doesn't. This one is just on the sales tax.
This is isolated.
Yeah, this is isolated. It's kind of like the difference between, just doing a general cleaning of your house and a thorough cleaning of your garage. One, if somebody just goes through the house and cleans every room, as opposed to if you tell somebody, I want this garage organized, I want it scrutinized, I want it cleaned to the nth degree. So the concentration is going to be different. And Madam Mayor, to speak to your point, I don't have a problem with
passing the ordinance and doing the bids and then dealing with the costs once we know what they are. But I wouldn't, you know, I just want to go. The problem I have is that this particular tax is quite confusing to most people. I have the hardest time telling people that we don't really write but one check to go forward, and that's for the generator. But there, you know, it's just so many parts of it that people just are confused about it. I mean, and even I can't tell you how we do the festivals. I haven't had a report on any other festivals to say whether they want, you know, what was the outcome financially or numerically, how many people came and that type of thing. So it just,
So the forensic audit would tell you all that?
yes, it would scrutinize every allocation of all the dollars. Well, what I'm saying is, it only takes that part of the budget that's related to the 5/8 sales tax. So you're talking about if the 5/8 sales tax is $4 million a year, it only does that $4 million. If our annual budget is 35, a legislative audit does the whole 35 million. So they're sampling every department, every part, but this here would just be, you know, it's kind of like if you were doing a back surgery, as the difference between just sectioning out 2 vertebrae as opposed to doing the whole spine.
Okay. I think that even with doing this forensic, though, you would have to tell them you're looking for something. Otherwise, it would just be a general audit, wouldn't it?
Well, but I think forensic audits are a little bit different than regular audits in that the process and procedures are a little bit different. That they usually they do forensic audits when they found some type of irregularity. A regular audit, they do it whether you have no regularities or whether you have, you know,
Right.
it's just something that they do on an annual basis.
Which brings me back to saying that, okay, so what irregularity are you looking for? Because that's what they would focus on, right?
The bottom line-
Basically.
The bottom line is this: the
Councilmember
city
Brown,
council
Sr.
and the mayor is responsible for the taxpayers' money. If the citizens want to know if they want to do an audit for this, then it's isolated that they don't have to go and look at the entire $35 to $40 million budget that we're dealing with. They're just going to deal with this particular one for this particular private group. It's really an insult for the mayor to ask us where would the money come from. Maybe she asked me where would the money come from. We're not begging, because we have enough money to
We
do
don't
an
know
audit.
where, we
We're
don't know
not
what
begging,
this will cost.
because the money from the go forward itself could pay for the audit. So just pull it out the go forward money and pay for it if it's that. I don't think that we should even be worried about this not being something that we do. It's accountability, it's transparency, it's satisfying the people's thought about what the go forward has done with their money. It is the taxpayers' money. And and I hope we don't, if we renege on this audit, it's something wrong with us, and that's the truth.
Councilmember
Because-
Holcomb.
Because,
I haven't.
that says a lot to us that we renege on this. I mean, if
Brown Jr.
nobody has anything to hide, then
Well,
we'll
it's
see.
not that having anything to hide. It's
Right.
just a matter of spending monies on something
No.
that we've already
How
had.
much
already
would it
done.
cost us?
We don't know. That's the whole point. So
well.
we commit to doing something
Well,
and we don't have a cost.
If it's about go forward, then we could take go forward's money, take the money from go forward and pay for it. I don't think, and I'm giving Mayor her question. Take it from the go forward and pay for it. It's about them. That's what we had to get the money
But
from.
we don't know what the cost is.
But if I'm correct,
Well,
don't
then-
we usually
and-
get an RFP?
Then
or get quotes and
Alderman
get how much it's gonna cost
Lockett
before we
said,
bring
let's
to
pass it,
council?
and then we'll discuss later where the money comes
I
from.
would rather know how much it costs before we pass it.
If we decide that we can't do it, we can't pay it, then let's do that. But
Well, no, because at that
But-
point we would have
but
said
the
we're going
city
to
is
do
not
it.
begging. We're not begging for any money.
So
We're not
if we
broke.
don't want, let's decide whether you want to vote for it, let's vote it up, let's vote it down, but let's vote. All those in favor of resolution number 13 in this packet, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against it,
No.
No.
roll call, please.
Councilmember Mays,
Aye.
Councilmember Holcomb Jr.,
No.
Councilmember Brown Jr.,
No.
Councilmember Lockett,
Aye.
Councilmember Brown Sr.,
All right.
Councilmember Shainer,
No.
Councilmember Frazier,
No.
Councilmember Brunson.
No.
Resolution fails.
So we
5-3.
actually saying that we don't care about transparency, because this is just a clear, good audit. I mean, clear.
We do
That
care.
mayor and the rest of this city council that voted against this. You're saying that you don't care anything about transparency. Do you realize what we have done to ourselves tonight on two or three occasions? First thing we did was bought back a tax that was said no to, and now you're saying you saying no to doing a forensic audit. What's wrong with us
Do a
here?
review of the meeting just after the meeting. Can we move forward, please?
You can
Item
do
number
just what you
14.
need to do,
Agenda
Mayor.
item
Mayor,
number
you can do just
14.
what you need to do.
Thank you,
A
sir.
resolution declaring certain houses, building, and/or structures as nuisance and ordering their abatement.
Whereas the the city council has determined that the structures located on the property.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that a resolution declaring certain houses, buildings, and/or structures as nuisances and ordering their abatement be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor of this resolution, let it be known.
Hold on for a second. I talked with Mr. Wayne Hayes about number 16, number 19, and he's going to get back with me on that. He's going to look into it, see what their property is, and he's supposed to get with city clerk, somebody.
Once this resolution is approved, he will have time to do that.
Okay.
There will be time for that, okay?
All right.
All those in favor of this resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution approved.
Agenda item number 15, a resolution providing for the placement of costs of correcting certain nuisances on tax books as delinquent taxes and collected as such.
Whereas ACA Section 14.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It is been moved and properly second that a resolution providing for a placement of cost of correcting certain nuisances on tax books as delinquent taxes and collected as such be approved. The floor is open for discussion. Questions? Hearing none. All in favor of this resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Resolution approved.
Agenda item number 16, a resolution to create a position for an economic community development specialist within the Economic and Community Development Department.
Whereas it is desired to create a position for an economic development specialist within the Economic and Community Development Department. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Section 1, there is created a position for an economic development specialist within the Economic Community Development Department. Section 2, the necessary qualifications and respective job duties for the position are set forth in the attached job description, which is approved and incorporated herein by reference. Adjustments to the 2023 municipal budget shall be undertaken when the position is filled.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second that a resolution to create a position for an economic development specialist within the Economic and Community Development Department be approved. The floor is open for a discussion. First thing, Councilmember Brown Senior, I think this was sponsored by Holcomb because it did go through his committee. And I don't,
I'm not
both?
worried about it.
Okay.
I just want things.
Just want you to know. Okay, any questions, comments? Hearing
Mayor,
none. Councilmember Frazier?
I did speak to Mr. Matthew. He said that this is going to be funded, but what fund is it coming out of? 'Cause
The first year, we're going to fund it through the city side, and then for that next year, once we get, and the first year is just this year, the rest of this year. And then after this year, since it wasn't in that budget, to start of 2023, and then 2024, it'll go into the Economic and Community Development budget. Once the job description is totally laid out, they're billing as they go. Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor of this resolution, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution approved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second that we adjourned. I wanted to do our announcements. We don't have many tonight, but we did have about 3. As we've done every Sunday this year, every 5th Sunday this year, we will have Pine Bluff Live on Sunday number 5, Sunday, July 30th. Our focus will be on our young people, and we're asking as many as can to please be there. This is July 30th at 5 p.m. right here in the Pine Bluff Convention Center. On July 22nd, Saturday, July 22nd, we will have a lupus awareness event And that event will take place from 10 to 2 at 902 904 Main Street. We'll have a speaker, there'll be food, there'll be games, and plenty of information shared on lupus. The GVI, and that is the Group Violence Intervention Initiative, will have a town hall meeting on August 22nd, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Pine Bluff Convention Center. As you know, I think in the month of May, the end of May, there was a trip taken by the GVI team, a team of about 9, to Pennsylvania, visited about 5 cities in Pennsylvania where they have experienced success with this initiative, and that team will be in Pine Bluff that week, and they'll be there also for the town hall meeting. So mark your calendars and do your best to attend that. At this time, we will have our...
Mayor, before
I'm
you
sorry.
go there,
Yes, sir.
let me make this announcement that I usually make every year, and I don't want to miss it. I think I've missed it on previous meetings, but it's we're in a heat wave, and it's possibly 99 to 100 and a heat index of higher. So I would like for all of us to check on our neighbors, check on our relatives, make sure they stay cool and hydrated. Sometimes think we cannot help, but we can help this by going to see our neighbors and making sure that they are cool and hydrated. Thank you.
Oh, I have one thing, Mayor. On every council member's desk, we have a statement of activity for our 2017 sales tax. So that was something that was there when you got here. So just make sure you take a look at it. Just showing some of the expenses for the year. Has a picture here of K9 poker. So that K9 was acquired through the 2017 sales tax fund for the Pine Bluff Police Department. So that adds another K9 unit to our police department. So if you get a chance, just take a look at this. It just kind of shows where we are as far as sales tax collections and expenses.
Is there a copy available for the clerk?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought maybe.
But you know what he just said is fine, but he don't really understand that things that he talking about should have come directly from the city. We don't have to have somebody else to take our money to do that. We can do that for ourselves. That's what we're here for. We are already organized. I mean, this is what government set up to do it ourselves. Why do we have to employ or let someone else tell us how to do it? That's all. That's the simple thing. The 2017 tax is city tax. It's people's money.
At this time, we're going to go into our non-agenda item speakers. We have 2 to speak this evening. Our first one is Ryan Wadley. He's going to come with us with a report on sales tax.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. One of the things we're trying to do in our effort to promote more transparency, Alderman Brown just talked about this snapshot. This information is directly from the budget performance reports that you all receive. As is stated, you all deal with $40, $50 million, and this little $5 million here sometimes is just not enough paid attention to. And so we just want to keep it at the forefront of the council and the public in regard to the balance of the sales tax. As you see currently, as of 7/11, there was $6 million roughly. Monthly revenue for as of May 31st was $481,000, and yearly revenue to date was $2,203,000, and revenue budget is about 46%. The expenses for the month of May, $500,000, and the expenses for the year have been about $1,302,000. Key acquisitions, as Alderman Brown said, a K9 and the loan payoff for the aquatic center was completed at $1.9 million, so there was some funds saved there. And GVI, the city council transferred $80,000 there. Some of the impact that has occurred was the flock system again contributed to someone being apprehended in a investigation, so that was good. We also have from private monies listed below. Our net operating revenue for the month is a negative $119,301, and I can explain that. We had revenue for $251.61. Total expenses was $119, which again shows that revenue difference. Key expenses, we did $10,000 towards the millage campaign and $57,000 towards the tax campaign. We have not paid for the tax campaign yet because we did not receive the invoice directly. It came to the city of Pine Bluff, so we will be issuing a reimbursement to the city of Pine Bluff. We called the finance office today to get that invoice sent to us. I want to say that in regard to the resolution concerning the forensic audit, We're actually working on something that shows every expenditure from the tax, and that information can be pulled directly from budget performance reports each year. And so going and spending some more money where you can just go and pull it up from the finance department, you can do it, but it's gonna come back the same result as going to do that. So before the next council meeting, we intend to provide you with that information on every penny spent. Alderman Lockett, we do want to provide that information on the festivals, but keep in mind most times we do not even charge for outdoor events, so I want you to remember that. A lot of the confusion that you talked about is much because of what we heard at this podium today. A lot of misinformation is continuing to be shared, and we must combat that. We must talk about what has actually happened. We do not receive any tax dollars, but if we sit and let individuals say anything that is untrue, then people will continue to be confused, like Alderman Lockett is saying he's facing. And so that's really all I had, and we will continue to do this each month for transparency purposes, something we should have been doing, got lost with COVID and a bunch of other things, but we're trying to put our best foot forward and do this.
Now his time is up, so I have a statement to make. You said you're not charging for outside performances, but I do remember 2 blues festivals where people could not bring the coolers, and they were charged, not only were they charged at the gate, they were charged for parking also. So you can't tell me that you don't charge for outside activities. One was at Regional Park and one was at Hessel Stadium.
Yeah, I think we had that one for $5, where it was, I think it was VIP, it was free and then VIP for that one, but we moved past that. One year we did charge that minimum amount.
You had one at Regional and you had one at Hessel Stadium.
We
and
charged,
you charge for parking, and to me, I don't get the parking receipts because to me, parking is free. I mean, that's like money in somebody's pocket, because that's no way you can tell how much is being spent on, how much received on parking.
I stand corrected on those two events. However,
I do keep up.
Yeah,
I just want you to know.
we by and large have not charged because the citizens have not shown that they should be charged twice if the tax is 100% paying for the event. So, thank you.
You are joined? I'm sorry.
I was just told we had another announcement.
Oh, we have one more speaker, I'm sorry, we do. We have Mr. Julius Lever. Mr. Lever, I put my paper away, I don't know your topic, so if you'll.
We can't believe that.
I can share. I'll share.
Go back and get mail when you get mail.
That startled me. The first one was when I was standing on the corner of Main and Hardin Street. A car came from the mall direction, got right on and turned real quickly onto Main Street and threw a Molotov cocktail out. It was 8 o'clock at night. Attorney Donald Warren was coming from out of town, and he was there in the car. So after he left, I said, what was that all about? He said, I'm glad I was here, because that could have hit you. He said, I'm glad I don't live here no more. Just keep it in mind. So I went across the street and called 911. Officer Johnson came out. I told her what happened. I said, I was standing on the corner, a friend of mine here, and someone come around the corner threw a Molotov cocktail out. She said, do you know him? Who it was? I said, no. And she got ready to get in her car. I said, you're not going to make a police report? She said, you want me to? I said, yes, I want you to. And I assumed she made a report. Very fine officer. I think she's going to do well with the panel because I've seen her how she approached cars that she stops. She's very diplomatic. She doesn't break under pressure. I admire her. This gentleman here, I had some engagements with him. one in particular, and that is when I bought some property behind the property that I expressed my religious beliefs on one day before it was all torn down. Mr. Jimmy Deal was supposed to draw up the agreement for me to buy it. But the seller, after 1 day, 5 day, 10 day, 2 day, 1 week, 3 weeks, he said, I'm going to Mr. Kearney. And he went to Mr. Kearney on Cherry Street to draw the papers up for me to buy the property. So I bought the property, and I bought a 10-foot by 10 canopy tent, and I had it there. I put it there on Saturday. On Monday, city council meeting, I was coming on the city bus down Main Street. The man said, man, they done tore your tent up already? I said, no. I said, you just playing. And sure enough, when I got down there, the tent had been torn to pieces on a Monday, and I just bought it Saturday. So I said, he tells the truth. So a man pulls up in a big $80,000 truck and say, my friend saw who tore up your tent. He said this, he said that. Here's his name and here's his phone number. I called to make a police report, and Mrs. Johnson came out, and I said, someone tore up my tent. She said, the city did it. I said, the city didn't do it. They tore that down yesterday. She didn't say a word. Back to this gentleman here. I saw him at the convenience store, and I said, look here, someone tore up my tent. I just put it. He said, the city did it. He said, I heard it on the scanner. The woman called the police and asked the police to escort her to the lot so she could tear it up. I just thought that was hard to understand. So now let's get back to what I gave you all. I gave you a letter that Judge Kearney wrote that said that he was going to give me a new trial so justice could be served. And last week, and I will address Mr. Glenn Doctor, a barber sent his son to medical school to become a doctor. Dr. Glenn Brown Jr. You asked me some questions last week, and I'm asking you now. Do you see the letter? Do you see the violation? And do you remember under water course sewage, I was given an offense of public nuisance for water course water sewage? I think that's so profound. I think anytime you take a property that's dedicated for religious worship and you cite a man about sewage, a nuisance of sewage on water course, so I am saying, sometimes I believe there's organized crime in this area. I don't say that it is. I hope that it's not. But that crossed my mind when a Molotov cocktail came out. Could have been some of the young men that want to date the girl that want the property. But I just say too much has happened when it comes down to my worship of God. And I hope, and I will ask you this, will anybody tell me on the city council, how many times have I come before you all and telling you they're charging me with a public nuisance and everybody else says it's religious worship, and now we find out it's about water course, a pool of water that you contaminate, and it goes to the stream, a lake, or a dam. Now, isn't a stream or a lake or a dam down near Harding Street? So how could that be so? And 3 judges have found me guilty. And one of them going to prohibit me from being on the property. Ms. Johnson heard all about it. I'm appealing it. So can anybody tell me how long I've been trying to express these concerns to you all?
And Mr. Lever, I think that whatever this is something for the courts, and the city council cannot really.
Well, let me share this with you. Let me share this with you. People like me feel like you all control the city. Why? Because you control the prosecutor. And I'm telling you who told me this. Mr. Booker Clemens told me a long time ago. He said, people think the police got all the power. The police ain't got the power. It's the prosecutor. Because the prosecutor said drop the charges. You got to drop the charges. So I'm saying the prosecutor could just stop prosecuting something that don't make sense. And I think you all should have some influence. And I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr.